boys and assembled company. Welcome to the World Storytelling Cafe and Folk East. Where I'm broadcasting from Folk East, other people are broadcasting from around the world. Folk East, give these people a huge round of applause. Right, so as I understand it, people have to get away, so we're going Orla first, then Maria, then Babasi, then Despina, and I can't see who's with us. So as I'm on this minimal technology, so is Colombia with us? Is Juliana with us from Colombia yet?
Can't see her.
Pardon?
Here, and Maria, if you want to go first, darling, you go first because I don't have to leave till after 6:30. So
okay,
brilliant. Yeah,
Maria.
Yeah.
And tell me when I'm broadcasting from there, and then I can cut off this mobile phone. Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and the Summer Comedy, can we please give a huge round of applause to Maria Gillen from County Cork? No, yes. You're next door. Are you at Cork or are you down the road in Kerry?
I'm from Cork, living in Cork today, and I'm the storyteller in residence for the Kerry Writers Museum in Listowel in County Kerry. So I'm representing the South, Cork and Kerry today, you know.
Okay, could you give us a story?
I'd love to give you a story. So this is a really old story. So sometimes I tell you new stories, and sometimes I lean into the Irish history, and this is one of those stories. If you leave my place and you head off down towards Kerry, you come to a place called Mallow. And on the way to Mallow, and you can check this out for yourself, now that the curtain has been risen, the COVID curtain has risen, and we're being able to visit places again, you can come to Cork and head down the road to Kerry, and you will see on your way a place called Bottle Hill. And this is how it got its name, because of course there's magic in the fields of Ireland. A long time ago, there was a famine in Ireland. And even though the part of Ireland that I live in is the breadbasket and the golden veil of Ireland, even in this place, when it hadn't rained in such a long time, people began to feel the need for food because nothing was growing in the fields. And the farmers' wives, they had to sell things off bit by bit until there was hardly anything left. On the way down to Mallow, in the farm that lies between Cork and Mallow, there was such a place. And the woman of the house came out and she said to her husband, "Do you know what? We've only 3 cows left and we're starving. We're going to have to sell them, even though they feel like family members, even though they all have names and they're only our milking cows." The husband said, "That's really sad. When you go to market now, be careful that you get a good price for them." She said, "What do you mean? What do you mean? You're going to be the one that takes these cows to market. Will you take the red one or the white one or the black one?" And he said, "Oh, all right, so let's sell the red one first for luck, for the colours of Cork are red and white." She said, "Now listen to me, boy. Listen to me. Don't look right. Don't look left. Keep going. Talk to nobody. Because if you do, you might get into a wrong bargain." "All right, so," he said, "I'll do that." And with a heavy heart, he took up the rope that pulled the cow along the road. And she didn't want to go, so moving was slow. And when he got to a place in Cork that was a kind of a hump in the ground, on the grass verge there, he heard beautiful music and a gorgeous song to go with it. "O Roche de Vahawalia, O Roche de Vahawalia," the song went, and he couldn't help it. He didn't mean to look right. He didn't mean to look left. He meant to go straight on, but his head turned of its own volition. And there he saw the tiny smiling man with a pipe out the side of his mouth. "How are you?" he said, "on this fine day, and what are you carting along behind you?" Now, every Irish person knows that you can't be rude to the to the fair folk. So he said, "Listen, we're in dire straits and I just want to get past you. I'm going to market with my cow." "Ah, I have need of a cow," he said, "a fine red-headed cow." "Oh no," said the man. "What will you give me? For my wife will kill me if I don't bring her back money." "Ah," said the she. "Sure, what need have you of money? Human beings, you make us laugh out loud. Money, is it? Who needs money? I have something much better than money." And he pulled from out under his coat a blue bottle, and he held it up to the sun as if it was the best treasure in all the world. "Oh no," said the man. "What is it?" He says, "It's on Budail Gurram, the blue bottle, and it will give you anything your heart desires. You just have to speak the magic words. You have to say please, and you have to say thank you, and you have to say them in An Teang an Dríochta, the magical language, the language of Irish." "Oh," said the man, "all right so." And he took the blue bottle because he was afraid to anger the she further. The famine could go on for 100 years, and he turned for home. And as he was going, his wife saw him out through the window, and she ran out, wiping her hands on her apron. "What did you get us? How much? For I'm starving," she said. He held up the blue bottle. She said, "Did you talk to the she folk? Did you talk to them when I told you not to look right or left?" "I did," he said, "but it's the bottle of plenty. It's the blue bottle." "And how do you get stuff?" she said. And he said, "Well, what would you like?" And she says, "I'd like your fine turkey dinner, as if it was Christmas. I like a lot of things, but I'm probably not going to get them." And he put the bottle down on the ground, and he asked for a turkey dinner. And he said, "Ma say the holla," which is the Irish for please. And suddenly there was a table creaking with all good things. There was turkey, there was potatoes. What else do you think there might have been? Yams, Babasy, absolutely. What else? Trifle, John Rowe, absolutely, there was trifle. What's that, Despina? Cake. Oh yeah, there was loads of cake. There was loads of everything there. Orla, Guinness. Oh, definitely. There was pots and pots of Guinness. It was amazing to see. And the wife clapped her hands and she was delighted. And the man said, "Now listen, you can't tell anyone. You know the landlord will throw us out if he finds that we have treasures." "I won't tell anyone," she said. And she really meant it. She only told her sister, who only told her husband, who only told the local policeman, who only told the priest in confession. And shortly afterwards, there was a pat beaten to their door as people needed things, and they'd say, "Please ask the blue bottle for us." And sure, you couldn't say no to the neighbours. So eventually the landlord came and he knocked on the door. "I hear you have a magical bottle," he said. "Anything on this land belongs to me," he said. "Produce the bottle now," he said. And the man said, "Where did you hear that?" But he was looking at his wife. No need for you to know where I heard it. Just know that I hear everything." "Produce the blue bottle," he said. So the poor man, he could do nothing except hand it over. Now, for weeks after that, people passed the landlord's house and they'd look in the window and he'd be there saying, "Arrogant ma say the hulle. Or ma say the hulle. Money, please. And gold, please. And diamonds and all sorts of treasures." And the more he got and the more he put around his house, up on top of wardrobes, in presses, in the sink, the more he wanted. The greed was never ending. And the woman of the farmer, she said, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I told him. But listen, you're going to have to sell another cow." So Seamus took the cow again and he walked past that little green piece of land and he heard the man coughing, no singing this time. And when he looked up, the man's face was quite cross. You didn't mind the present I gave you? I didn't, he said. I'm so sorry. Do you have one the same for this cow? And the man looked at him and he said, in the land of the She, there's no thing made the same twice. So I can give you a similar bottle, but it will have different effects. And he gave him the bottle and he told him the words Ascuelgan, the Changandriot, in the magical language of Irish. And he said, if you tell anyone, he said, you will ruin it entirely. Tell no one. Keep it to yourself. I will, he said. And he headed back to his wife. And when she saw the blue bottle, she was delighted. And she said, oh my goodness, make it work, make it work. And he said, Anish, Ma said the Hulle, which means now, please. And two men jumped out of the bottle. And they were big burly men. And they had two hurleys. And there was rusty nails in them. And they started beating all around them. And the woman was trying to run away from them. And they were gaining on her. Stop him, she said. Stop him, please. And just as they reached her, the husband said the magical words in Irish and they disappeared. I have a plan, he said. I'm going to visit the landlord. So he went to visit the landlord, and when he looked in the window, he saw that he was having a big feast with all his cronies around him, and they were laughing out at the poor, hungry farmer. But the farmer held up the bottle, and the greed of the landlord pulled him to the door. No, he said, that's mine too, if you are living on my land. You can have it, said the farmer. And he put it down on the ground and he went, Anish, Ma said the Hulle, now please. And the two men jumped out and they ran around that man's table and they planted the hurleys down in the middle of the table. Jelly went up in the air, trifle ran down the walls, Guinness spilled on the floor, and then he started on the people. Oh my goodness, they were roaring and shouting and screaming for mercy. And the farmer said, you know what you have to do. And the landlord took the blue bottle down. Now, if you go to Mallow, there is a pub on the way in Bottle Hill with an old-fashioned mantelpiece. And up on top of that mantelpiece are the two blue bottles. People know what to say to get the Severus, to get the treasure out of the bottle. But if you say it to the wrong bottle, you could get a baiting you weren't planning on. So would you say it? If you saw those two bottles, would you take the chance?
Whoa. Well, now I just have to check. Maria, that's fantastic. Can everyone else make sure they keep it fairly tight, because we've got to be finished by about 10:02, and there's something else coming on then. So without any further ado, am I live on? Am I coming through there? Okay, I can dispense with the broadcasting through the mobile phone. So without further ado, can you welcome Orla McGovern, again from Ireland. Now, whereabouts in Ireland are you, Orla?
Well, just if you have a little look out the window, I'm out in the wilds of Connemara, and there's a tiny little airport behind me, so we might see a plane go over, and that's the Atlantic behind me. I have a really beautiful view. I'm out with the lovely Irish language storyteller doing a bit of work. Hello, everyone in the tent. You look very happy there. How are you? Great. I'm going to go further up the coast from my friend Maria with the story today, and I'm going to tell you another wild Atlantic story. And because the sea is behind me, the sea is going to feature very much in my story. This is a story about Grania. And Grania loved playing alongside the beautiful boats. She loved the taste of the salt in the sea air. She loved the roar of the waves. She loved to clamber over the boxes when they were being loaded along the shore by her father's boat. Now, sometimes she would climb up on the boxes, and when nobody was looking, she would climb onto the boat and she would pretend that she was sailing the boat herself. She was a great captain out at sea, off on a great adventure. Other times you would see her and she would grab onto the big ropes that came out of the mast, and she would swim back and forth, swim and swim through the air with her long red hair floating behind her in the wind. But she had to be careful, you see. When she was on the ship, she had to look around because her mother, Maeve, was not too fond of her being on the ship. "That's not a place for a girl at all," she'd say. "Sure, whoever heard of a girl being a sailor?" Now, luckily, things have changed. But Grania would always wish that she could go off with her dad when he went off sailing on a great adventure out into the Atlantic, like you see behind me. Look, you've brought the sunshine. Thank you. She'd often say, "Daddy, Ayadi, will you take me off, please? Please take me sailing with you. I'll be very useful." And he'd look down at her and he'd say, "Grania, a store. Grania, my love, sure, you're too small. You're too young yet. Maybe when you're older." And he'd pat her on the head the way grown-ups do when they mean, "I'm not really going to think about it anymore." Well, years passed and the sea still changed and stayed the same, and changed and stayed the same. And Grania still played on the boats, and still she dreamt of going off with her dad Owen to sea. And it was coming up to the time when he was going on a big adventure to Spain, to Spain. I'll ask him now, she thought, because she'd seen cabin boys the same age as her starting to go off on voyages with other ships. So she summoned up the courage and she walked up to her father a week before he was due to sail. And her mother Maeve was standing beside him. "Daddy," she said, "Daddy, will you please take me with you this time? Please, And he said, "No, Astorian, you're too small." "I'm not too small," she said, losing her temper a little bit. "I'm just as big as some of them cabin boys. You have to take me with you." Now Maeve, Grania's mam, looked over at Grania with a squint in her eye. So Owen had to think of something. "It's not that," he said, "you can't come because of your hair." "What? My hair?" said Grania. "Yes, your long, beautiful hair. 'Twill get tied up in the ropes and in the rigging when we're rigging the sails out at sea, and you'd be thrown out and swallowed by a whale and eaten, and your mother and I'd be very sad and we'd be broken-hearted. No, you can't come because of your hair." Maeve smiled, but Grania, you could see steam coming out of her ears, and she was just getting angrier and angrier, and her mother reached out her arms as if to comfort her daughter, but Grania took off. She stormed home and she went into her room and she sat down and she stared into her mirror at her beautiful long red hair, the thing that was stopping her going off to sea and sailing. And she looked and she looked, and an idea came into her mind. The next week, the father was due to set off for Spain, and normally Grania would come down to the docks to wave goodbye to him on his journey. And her mother was there too, but there was no sign of Grania. "She might be still sulking," said her mother. "She mightn't have forgiven you, Owen." And Owen was sad because he always hugged his daughter before a voyage. But just out of the corner of his eye, over by the boat, he noticed a strange hooded figure, about the same size as one of the cabin boys, but there was something about the way this boy was walking that... So he walked over and he pulled back the hood. "Grania!" he said. It was Grania trying to sneak onto the boat, but she had chopped all of her beautiful long red hair off. Her mother rushed over. "Grania, your hair!" Grania smiled and she reached into her pocket and she pulled out a big lock of red hair. "Now, Daddy," she said, "you can take me on the boat because my hair is not in the way. And Mammy, you were worried about my hair, so you can mind it for me until I get back." Well, the father looked at Grania, bald as an egg, defiant little girl with her hands on her hips, and he couldn't help but smile. "Well, daughter," he said, "if you want to come that badly, come you will with me." And Grania was full of the shketamini, the excitement. She had so much of this excitement that she hugged her father, but she looked over at her mam. And of course her mam didn't want to lose her daughter at the rough sea, and her mam she was looking down at the ground as if a great sorrow had come upon her. "Don't worry, Owami," she said. "I promise you 3 things. I promise you my hair will grow back stronger than ever. I promise you that I will return safe from this voyage. And I promise you that one day you will be so proud of your daughter." And you know what? All of those things came true. Grania set off on a great voyage with her dad to Spain, and indeed she went on many more voyages with him. She grew to be a fine sailor, and soon she had a ship of her own. And soon, in fact, after that, she commanded a fleet. We have many different names for her in Ireland. Grania Niwalia was her name, or Grania O'Malley, or Grace O'Malley. Some feared her and called her the Pirate Queen, but around these parts they still refer to her by her nickname, and it's from that day when she shaved all her head off and she was bald as an egg. Grania Whale, or Little Bald Grania. And that's my story.
Hey, Orla McGovern. Now, we will cross now across the ocean, as many have done from Ireland before, and we're going to Washington, D.C. for Babassi. Babassi, keep to your time. I mean, I know that. But Babassi, big round of applause for Babassi.
Okay, so I'm going to condense the story, but first, as I usually do, I have to announce when this story was told. And when the story was first told, it was told a long time ago. Indeed. So I need you to do me a favor. And part of the story, I'm going to talk about a string from Anansi. And when I do like this, I want you to put your head toward the screen. And then when I release it, let your head go back to rest. You see, a long time ago, when there were only 3 days in the week, people worked and worked and worked some more. And they just worked and worked and worked and worked. And the only time they got a relief from working was when Inyame, the sky god, would come down from the heavens and open his chest of stories and tell stories to the people. And then he would close the chest and go back up. And then people would go back to working, 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 and working some more. But one day, Anansi said to himself, you know, it is not fair that the only time we hear the stories is when Inyame, the sky god, comes here. So he devised himself a plan, and he spun himself a web all the way to heaven, 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 all the way to heaven. Bah! And when he got to heaven, he said, Inyame, Inyame. Inyame said, who calls my name? It is me, Anansi the spider. And what do you want this time, Anansi? You know, you owe me lots and lots of favors. You owe me lots and lots of favor. And I said to myself, if Inyame does me this eeny, weeny, teensy, weeny favor, he owe me no more. Now, you know, when people say, do me a teeny, tiny, eensy, weeny favor, it is anything but teeny, tiny, eensy, weeny. Inyame said, okay, Anansi, you may have the stories, but first you must do something for me. You must bring me Chewy, the leopard with a terrible teeth. You must bring to me Mavu, the hornet with a terrible sting. You must bring to me Shatu, the python, and you must bring to me Watsi, the fairy that no man can see. You do these things for me, and those stories are yours. Now go. And Anansi spun himself a web all the way back to the earth. And when Anansi got to the earth, he started thinking. He talked to his wife, and he started thinking. And then he got an idea. Well, actually, she gave him the idea. And so he's walking through the forest. He's going bigger, no longer, no bigger, no shorter, no bigger, no longer, no bigger, no shorter. And the python heard him and said, that's not what pythons do, but I need the sound effect. What's the problem, Anansi? My wife, she say that you are longer than this log. I tell her you are shorter than this log. She say longer, I say shorter. Well, maybe I can help you. How can you help me? Oh, I tell you what, I will measure you. You just stretch yourself. And the python stretched, but he kept moving. He said, wait. Let me tie your tail to the log. And he tied the tail to the log. He said, now stretch yourself, stretch yourself, stretch yourself, stretch yourself. Is that as far as you can stretch? Yes, it is. And he tied him to the log. He said, my wife was right. The log is longer. Well, let me loose, Anansi. No, I have you ready for Inyame, the sky god. And then he went to find Chewy the leopard. And he found Chewy the leopard. He said, hey, Chewy, you want to play a game? Oh, yeah, I want to play a game. Let's play the bindy game. Oh, yeah, the bindy game, the binding. Wait, what's the binding game? Well, you see, I take this, and I throw divine. It was a divine story. And then I tie you by the foot, and then I swing you back and forth and back and back and forth and back. And then when you come down, it'll be my turn. And Chewy thought to himself, yes, but when I tie you up, Anansi, I'm going to have a snack. And so Anansi threw the divine over. He tied him up by the foot, and he swung him back and forth and back and back and forth and back. Wee, this is lots of fun. Okay, but now it's my turn. Let me down. It's my turn to tie you up. Nope, not going to do that. Let me down. Nope, not going to do that. Let me down. What you going to do? No, I got you ready for the sky god. Now, how is he going to get the hornets? But he got an idea. He got a great big vessel full of water. He sprinkled some on himself, and he went by a hornet's nest, and he threw the rest of it on the hornet's nest. And the hornets came out going, what's going on? We're getting wet. What's going on? Oh, it is raining. I tell you, it is raining. Oh, but we're getting wet. He said, I tell you what, why don't you get in here, get into my gourd, and I'll put these palm leaves on top of the gourd to keep you dry. And so they went in. Buzzy, buzz, buzz, buzz. Buzzy, buzz. And he put the palm leaves over it. And after a while, they said, is it still raining? Nope. Then let us out. No, I'm not going to do that. I got you ready for the sky god. But now he had a big problem. He had to find Watsi, the fairy that no man can see. How do you capture something that you can't see? But then he remembered, Watsi loved to dance, Watsi loved to sing, but Watsi loved to eat. And so he went out and he got himself some yams, some real African yams, and he pounded them up, and he made hot yams with butter and honey. And then he went out to the forest, and he went to a gum tree, and he got the gum from the gum tree, and he made himself a gum baby. And then he set the gum baby under a tree. And then he put the bowl of hot yams with the butter running down the middle in the hands of the gum baby. And then he took a piece of his web, he stuck it to the gum baby's head, and whenever he pulled it, you must pull your head forward, and when I release it, you must put your head back. And he waited, and he waited, and he waited. And soon he could hear but could not see Mwatsi. La 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 la. She sang better than me. La 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 la. Ooh. Gum baby, is that yams? Is that yams? Is that yams? And he pulled the string and he released it. But Gum baby, can I have some of your yams? Pulled the string and then he released it. And she only meant to eat a little bit, but the yams were so good. But before she knew it, she had eaten a whole bowl of yams. Oh, Gum baby, I did not mean to eat all your yams, but they were so delicious. Thank you. But the Gum baby don't say, what? No, I didn't say the dumb baby. I said the Gum baby. The Gum baby don't say nothing because he's a Gum baby. She said, Gum baby, I said, thank you. You must respect your elders. Gum baby don't say something. Gum baby, if you don't answer me, I'll give you such a smack. But the Gum baby don't say, what? Why didn't he say? Because it's a Gum baby. Not a real baby. It's a Gum baby. No, it's not a dumb baby. It's a Gum baby. And so she gave him such a smack. But her hand stuck. Let me go, Gum baby, or I'll smack you again. And she gave him another smack. And now her hands were stuck. Let me go, Gum baby. But the Gum baby don't say nothing. Why? Because it's a Gum baby. And she wound up kicking the Gum baby and smacking the Gum baby. And soon her hands and her feet were stuck on the Gum baby. And even though he could not see Watsi, he saw the Gum baby jiggling back and forth. No, Despina. It was not a dumb baby. It was a Gum baby. Oh, people. And so he knew he had captured her for Inyame. And so he gathered up Chewy, the leopard with the terrible teeth, Mavu, the hornets with the terrible sting, Chatu, the python, and Watsi, the fairy that no man can see. And in the skies, Inyame was laughing. Oh, Anansi, you're back. Of course I'm back. You gave me, I'm back, yes. And he gave him all the things that he had requested, including Watsi. He said, Watsi, how did he capture you? Watsi, I can see you because I'm a sky god. Go back to Earth. And so he everybody clapped their hands once, and the leopard was gone. Clap your hands twice, and the hornets were gone. Clap your hands 3 times, and the python was gone. Some people don't know how to count. Phil, I heard you smack your hands 5 times, but that's another story. And so being the sky god of his word, he gave Anansi the chest of stories, and Anansi spun a web back down to the earth, or as in the south, as they say, in the earth, south United States of America. And so Anansi sat down with all the stories of the world, and he could have made people pay to hear them. But in a rare moment of empathy and a rare moment of not caring just for himself, Anansi opened the lid and let the stories fly to the 4 corners of our very round globe. And the stories begot more stories. And some stories became dances, and some stories became songs, and some stories became art, and some stories, the stories became a lot of different things. Stories became the blues and jazz and hip hop and rap. I'm talking about the positive stuff. And it just grew and became music, became symphonies. And to this day, no matter where you are in the 4 corners of this very round globe, you can hear, see, feel, sense, and taste stories. Oh yes, you can taste stories, because a good meal, good food is indeed a story for the stomach as well as the soul. And this is how at one time all the stories belonged to Anansi, but now they belong to the world. Asante.
ABC. Now, because we are having enormous technical stuff and it's not your end, is Despina back with us? Excellent.
Yes, she is.
Right.
So we're moving
from Washington, D.C.
Sorry.
to Greece.
Orla's saying she has to go.
Yeah. So can you please
Hi.
put your hands together for Despina from Greece? Despina, tell me where in Greece you are. Or tell the rest, don't just me, tell everyone.
Okay, I come from a little island called Syros, and that's in the middle of the Cyclades. And this is exactly where my story comes for today. So, from the chest that Anansi opened, And from the chest that the wind blew the stories around the world, well, it seems that one of those stories landed on my island. And here's how it goes. For you see, at that time, there was a princess, and she was very loved by her parents. One moment, please. There we go. Very loved by her parents, but when she came of age, of course, her father, the king, would expect her to get married. Only the girl didn't want to, and no matter how much pressure they put on her, she would always find one excuse or another to send the suitors away. For we here have a reputation that we are kind of strong-headed women. If we don't want to marry, we don't get married. However, the pressure kept putting, the royal couple kept putting pressure on their daughter because they obviously wanted to see her, producing an heir to the throne. So, after some time, the girl had an idea and she told her servants, "You are to bring me 1 sack of sugar, 1 sack of almonds, and 1 sack of wheatmeal flour, and I am not to be disturbed while I work." So the servants brought the materials, the ingredients to the girl, and she started working. She took a large mortar and a pestle and she crushed all the almonds into fine dust. And when the dust was made, she mixed it up with the flour and the sugar, and she had this nice dough in her hands. She could make whatever she liked, and she started making this figure, which turned out to be a windmill man. Now this, was he beautiful. He had almond-like eyes in shape and in color, and sweet sugary lips. He was exactly as a girl had imagined. And she spent the night next to him, sweet talking to him, and she would talk in Greek, of course, because she was from the Cyclades after all. She would tell him, "Ξύπνα καλέ μου," which can roughly be translated into, "Wake up, my darling. It was I who made you with my own hands. I who put the ingredients together. I who made the fine dough for you to have this form." And she kept at it. She kept at it for 39 days and nights. And on the 40th morning, when she told him, "Ξύπνα καλέ μου," once again, the windmill man opened his eyes and he stretched. He said, "I was sleeping so nicely and you woke me up. Who are you?" So the girl told him exactly what had happened, and she went to her parents and told them that this man, she would marry. And there was a glorious wedding. You had the princess and you had the windmill man and the royal couple and all the aristocracy, all the blue bloods, everybody gathered, and there was wine and food to be given to the common people as well, and everybody celebrated. It was a splendid wedding. They drank and they ate and they danced and they sang, and word passed from mouth to mouth, from one person to another, that the princess had married the windmill man she had made. Now this passed from the palace out to the common people, and from the common people from one to the other, and when everybody knew on their land, well, it had to spread, of course, and it reached the ears of another princess, one who lived far away at another land. And she was accustomed to getting exactly what she wanted. When she heard of this windmill man, she said, "I must have him for my own." So she loaded a huge ship with the finest materials, the finest china and incense, and you have it, you name it, silk, fabric, and whatnot. And she sent it away. When the glorious ship entered the port, everybody was amazed. A huge crowd gathered to see what the merchants had brought, what was for sale. And word passed from mouth to mouth, as it often does, and it reached the palace. So the princess heard, and she said, Windmill husband, will you please go to the ship and fetch some new china? We need some more pieces. And of course, sweet as he was, he always did her bidding. But the moment that man stepped his foot on board, the sailors, who were none others than the soldiers of the other princess, disguised, found an excuse and took him away to the captain's cabin. And when he was locked inside, they sent everybody else away and sailed off immediately. Now, time passed, and the princess was in her palace waiting, and the windmill man was not returning. So she started asking here and there, but nobody had seen them. And she took to the streets looking for him, and somebody told her that he was seen boarding the ship that had now sailed to a faraway land. So she decided that she would fetch him back. She went to a shoemaker and ordered for 3 pairs of iron shoes to be made for her. She put on the first pair and took the other 2 with her, and she started walking. She walked and walked and looked everywhere for her husband. And when she had asked all the people around and nobody had seen him, she fell asleep in a little alley. And in the morning, the sunbeams woke her up, and she looked up in the sky at the great big sun. And she addressed the sun, saying, "Sun so bright, glorious light, have you seen my windmill man?" But the sun said he hadn't. And the girl was so sorry that he took pity on her, and he gave her an almond and told her, "Take this almond and break it when you must." The girl took the almond and thanked the sun, and she carried on walking. But she found that the first pair of iron shoes was already worn, so she had to change. She put on the second pair, and she started walking and walking again, far and further still, and soon it was night. She had asked everybody she had met in the street, and then up in the sky she saw the beautiful shiny moon shining over her, and she addressed the moon. She said, "Moon so bright, glorious light, have you seen my windmill man?" But the moon said she hadn't. And the girl was such a sorry sight that the moon took pity on her, and she gave her a walnut, and she told her, "Take this walnut and break it when you must." The girl took the walnut and thanked the moon, and she carried on walking to find out that her second pair of shoes, the iron shoes, were worn out again. So she had to put on the third pair, of course, and she started walking again, walking and walking. And then it was night again, and up in the sky she saw all the bright stars, and she addressed them, saying, "Stars so bright, glorious lights, have you seen my windmill man?" And one star said, "I have not seen him." And the other said, "Windmill man? No, I haven't." And so did all the rest, until one little star said, "I have seen your windmill man." "Oh, have you now?" said the girl. "Please, will you take me to him?" "Follow me," said the star. And where the star went, the girl followed. And soon, the moment the last pair of iron shoes was worn out, she had stepped foot on the faraway land where her windmill husband was kept captive in the palace of the evil princess. Now, the star, before leaving her to go, gave her a peanut, of course, and it said, "Take this peanut and break it when you must." The girl took the peanut and thanked the star so much for all its help, and she started walking towards the palace. And there, she had been so tired from all the walking and all the wandering around that she was not to be recognized. She asked for work at the palace, and they did need somebody to tend to the geese. So that was the job she was given. Tended the geese she did, and up on the palace, from the high window, she could see the windmill husband, but he would not recognize her because the moment the evil princess had taken him to her palace, she had given him a glass of water to drink, but that was the water of oblivion. He had forgotten everything about his previous life. He was now living a new life alongside her. So he did see the girl, but he did not recognize her. One day, as she was tending the geese, she could see that princess up in the window, and she saw the opportunity. She went back to her room and she broke the first nut. It was the almond. And out of the almond came a golden hand spindle. She took it out to the yard, and the sun shone on the hand spindle, and the beams reflected back to the tower, and that princess on the window, remember, she was accustomed to having what she wanted. She saw the golden hand spindle and she wanted it to be her own, of course. So she went to the girl and said, "What do you want for your hand spindle?" Well, the girl said, "I have no need of money. The only thing I want is to spend one night with the windmill man." "That can be arranged," said the evil princess. But before handing him over, she gave him a sleeping potion. So her servant carried him to the girl's room at night, and she took the golden hand spindle to be her own. Now the girl was alone with her husband in the room, but he was fast asleep no matter what she told him. "Ξύπνα καλέ μου, ξύπνα αγάπη μου." He wouldn't. He would not wake up. She spent all night crying at his side, waiting for a sign that he understood that he heard her. But in the morning, the servants came and dragged him back up to the palace. She kept at her work, minding the geese, and the next time she saw the princess up in the high tower, she went right into her room and she broke the walnut. And out of the walnut came a golden hen with her chicks. And she took them outside to play with the geese. And the princess up in the tower, she saw them. She saw that the hen was gold and she had these lovely little chicks and she wanted them all to be her own. So she went to the girl and asked what she wanted for the golden hen and the chicks. The girl said, "Nothing but one night with the windmill man." "Okay, you can have him," said the evil princess. And of course, again, she gave him the sleeping potion before having her servants carry him away to the girl's bedroom, totally sleeping, oblivious to the fact that she was crying at his side, begging him to wake up. Now, in the morning, he was dragged back up on the palace, realizing nothing, of course. And the girl felt so sorry, but she kept at it. She kept to her work. And the last time, the third time she saw the evil princess up on the tower, she broke the peanut. And out of the peanut came a golden saddle with the reins. And she took them outside to the yard. And the princess wanted them to be her own. Now she had it. She knew the trick. It was very easy to get all the golden apparatuses out of the girl's hands. It was such an easy bargain. So she went to her and she said, as if she didn't know, "What do you want for the gold saddle and the reins?" And the girl said, of course, "Nothing but a night with the windmill man." So the princess said, "Okay, you can have him." And she took the gold saddle and the reins and she put them on her horse and off she went riding into the wild. Now, the evil princess went riding and the windmill man came down from the tower and he was walking. And as he was walking, somebody stopped him and said, "Excuse me, sire, can I ask, how do you sleep at night?" "Pardon?" said the windmill man. "Sire, I am the tailor. I live next to the room of the girl that tends to the geese. And 2 nights now, she keeps talking to you and begging you to wake. And I don't know how you manage to sleep with all the talking and the begging and the crying, my lord, but I have not slept well. I have not slept well in 2 nights now. So will you please do something so that I can have a good night's sleep tonight? Now it's struck the Whitmillman as odd. So that night, when the princess gave him the sleeping potion, he only pretended to drink it, and when she was looking away, he poured it next to the plant that was on his side and pretended to be asleep and let the servants carry him off to the girl's room and pretended to be asleep as she was telling him the story of how she had made him with her own hands and how she had worn out 3 pairs of iron shoes to get to him. And couldn't he wake up? Ξύπνα, καλέ μου. Ξύπνα, αγάπη μου, said the girl, and the tears were running down her eyes, and then, and only then, did he open his eyes and look deep into hers, and he said, "Wife, I remember you now." And he took her on his horse, and they rode off to the port, and he had saved some money, and they paid for their fare, and they went back to their kingdom, and there they lived happily ever after, but as we Greeks say, we lived even more so. Ευχαριστώ πολύ. Thank you.
Divinely told, as only you can.
Ευχαριστώ
All
πολύ.
right. I'm looking for John. In
Yeah.
our studio size. Are you there, John?
I'm there.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
Did we finish the story?
Despina told a divine story.
I saw it. I saw it. And so can we have one more round of applause for Despina, Baba C, Maria Gillan, Orla McGovern. We should be back tomorrow if everything works at 5 o'clock with young tellers. That's tellers. We got a young teller from Punjab and young tellers from Nigeria and maybe somewhere else. And then on Sunday at 6 o'clock, we've got stories direct from our World Storytelling Cafe in Marrakesh. So thank you very much for coming. You've been a wonderful audience. One more round of applause for everybody. Wave.
Until the next time, to be continued.
And the time after. Goodbye.
Most deaf. All right. Take care, everybody.